The Malm family. What was your grandfather's name?
Per David.
Per David
Malm.
Malm. And what do you know about his father in Sweden?
I don't know when he came over here, what year that would have been.
But his father never came over here, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he was minister.
Oh, he was a Lutheran minister.
Yeah.
And they were from, well, it's HJO in, Lake Vettern.
In the west side.
In Sweden. And you think your grandfather was Per David Malm, and he came here, you think, about 1914.
No, it had to be before then.
Before then?
Yeah, Dad was born in 1901.
Oh.
So it would have been.
Oh. And where did your grandfather work first? Was he in Colorado?
Yeah, he worked in mines at Idaho Springs for a short time. And then he moved from there to Burdick in the Lost Springs, Harrington area.
Lost Springs, Kansas, the Burdick area. And your grandmother, who was your grandmother?
Freda Train.
Freda Train. She was one of the, from a family that lived where?
In New Gotland.
In the New Gotland area. And they had a number of children. Can you name the sons in the family?
Emmett was the oldest. And then it was my dad, Reynold. And his twin brother, Harold. And Marvin. And Vernon and Kenneth, and a sister, Evangeline.
Was there an Everett?
An Everett. Yeah, that's right.
Who was the father of Bertel Malm?
That was Emmett.
That was Emmett. And you said there was one daughter,
yeah,
Evangeline. And whom did she marry?
She married Clell Vogel.
What Vogel?
Clell. He was from McPherson.
But they lived in Kansas City, I think.
Yeah, right. He worked with the postal department.
And your father then was how do you pronounce it, Reynold?
Reynold, yeah.
Reynold. And you said he was born about 1901. 1901. And in Lost Springs.
At Lost Springs.
Kansas.
3 of the boys were born out there.
About when did he was a farmer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And about what time did he settle in this?
I don't really know what year they moved
in the
out.
first decade of this century, probably, before 1910.
Yeah, well, let's see. Dad was born in 1901, and Dad lost his leg when he was 6, and they were at Burdick then.
But then he settled in the Johnstown.
My dad did, yeah.
In the Johnstown area. And then your mother was Marie Johnson.
Right.
We've talked once before with your mother about...
I'd better not go into that because we might conflict.
And then, of course, you were married to Rosemary Pearson. And you have how many children?
2. 2
sons.
Mary and
we have a boy and girl.
Well, you had a brother,
Quirky.
Paul. Was that the only 2 in that family? So it's Norman and Paul was his real name, but known as
Quirky.
He is in the construction business. But there were no daughters.
No.
You had no sisters. And again, your children. You have 2.
We have 2.
2.
So we have a boy and a girl.
A boy and a girl. What is the boy's name?
James Lane.
James, and the daughter's? Mary. Are either of them married?
No.
So you don't have any grandchildren?
No. We have a daughter, though, that teaches 2nd grade, just like her mother and her aunt.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Norman. Now we want to talk more specifically about the famous woodcarver Anton Pearson. And Rosemary, I understand you don't know very much about his ancestry in Sweden.
Oh, that's right.
Except that That well, he lived in Smoky, didn't he? That part of. And,
he was born in Lund.
You're talking about your father?
Yes.
Was born in Lund, so they were in that area. And your grandfather, then, I believe you said, worked in a shoe factory.
That's right.
In a shoe factory. And did your father have any brothers?
Yes, he did. There was Uncle
Hilding.
and there was another uncle.
Albert.
Albert.
But they didn't come to America.
No, Daddy came by himself.
Your father came alone to this country.
He was in his
Have you ever been back to Sweden to meet any of the descendants
Oh, yes.
of
Yes.
Hilding and Albert?
Yes. They came here.
Oh, they came here.
They have been here, and we've also returned to visit.
So you kept up
Oh,
contact?
yes. We exchanged Christmas presents, birthday cards, and everything.
Well, where in Sweden then did you visit them?
Malmo.
Malmo. In Sweden. So your father's name, his first name was actually Nils.
Right.
Nils
Sandzén.
Anton Pearson. And he was born in Lund, Sweden, as you say. I had a note, an interesting detail about the Titanic.
Right. Well, Daddy was going to be 21 years old, and times were getting hard in Sweden. Father wanted him to become an engineer, and he did not want to do that. And so he was a young boy, and he decided that he wanted to sail the Titanic to America. So he made his reservations just before, so he took another trip to America.
So he escaped that fate.
That's right. But he came right during that time. He was just right before his 21st birthday.
I don't remember the year when the Titanic sank. Do you remember that?
Well, I believe it was 1912, and I think it was in April, and Daddy came in May.
Yeah, he arrived the same year.
He arrived in May of 1912. But he didn't. He didn't first come to Lindsborg.
No.
Where did he spend his time?
I imagine the Chicago area, and worked his way down here. I always laugh and tell people that my daddy was a and a hobo, because a lot of the young men were.
Yeah, sure.
And this is the way that he got here. He worked for farmers, and he rode the boxcars, and we had relatives, cousins here in Lindsborg, and he was going to stop and visit them on his way to the West Coast.
Oh, he was thinking
Merchant Marine.
he was going to go to the West Coast to join the Merchant Marines.
That's right.
But he stopped in Lindsborg to visit relatives. Who were the relatives in Lindsborg?
Well, they were up by Bavaria, and their names were
John Olson.
And they lived in Salina. They're not there.
Would that have been on his mother's side?
No, I think it was his father's side.
His father's side.
I guess I don't really know.
Right.
I should say I don't know.
He left Sweden about on his 21st birthday, I believe you said. But he came to the Lindsborg area about 1915. I believe I remember you saying this. Is that correct?
Well, I believe we say he graduated in the art department in 1915. So it must have been right before that. And at that time, but from what I have read, he evidently did not take a lot of other courses at Bethany, because it says he was a graduate of the Bethany art department.
Oh, just of the art department.
And then he took some other things too, but they did it that way.
Well, would he have taken painting?
Yes, under Dr. Sandzén. And they became very, very good friends. In fact, Dr. Sandzén's wife's parents were like my grandparents when I was a little girl.
But then in later years, your father did not do much oil painting, did he?
No, during my high school years he did some. But you see, this great love for carving was always there, so that's what he really wanted to pursue.
Then, after he graduated from the art department here, what then did he do?
Well, he was an oil leaser.
He leased oil.
He did a lot of leasing of oil. I just read in the notes that he and some other men leased over 2,000 acres at one time. So,
Where about in the country did he do?
well, right in through here, over in Oklahoma.
Oh, I see.
Yes, a lot of these wells that are working now that are old wells were leased by Daddy.
I have a note about, well, he, having done some U.S. Army service on the Mexican border. Do you remember?
That was it, yeah, 1918. So evidently after he finished Bethany, maybe he did that.
So did he ever tell you exactly what he did in the U.S. Army service?
He had, as a child, discharged.
So his service was a way then that you could gain your citizenship quicker.
Oh,
Right.
It took off, you know, quite a
So he had some, but he never did talk much about that.
No, not really.
No, I don't think he was in very long, really, I don't.
So he was in the oil business then after that, somewhat. And when was he married?
1929.
Oh, he married later then. When did he start actually doing his wood carving?
Well, I would say probably in the middle 20s sometime,
Yes.
wouldn't you? But his serious carving after he and Mother were married, they built his house, moved here, and I would say from that point on. Because I remember tourists coming from my toddler years, and they came in the house then.
And who was your mother?
She was Grace Lane from Castett, Kansas.
From Castett. And how did they happen to meet?
She was studying piano at Bethany.
Oh, so an art student married a
I guess. And she worked in a restaurant uptown, so
music student.
I guess that's how they met.
And they were married what year?
1929.
1929. And then you were their only child.
Yes, they lost one before me, but
I see.
the only living child.
And then you said, did he start building the house here immediately after they were married?
It was being built when they were married, and yes, they were married in June and moved in October.
But no one had lived in the house before they lived in it.
No, that's right. He built it,
He built
or
it.
he had it built.
What is it? It's a stucco house.
Which there are a lot of stucco homes in Malmö, which I think, and Lund, which I think is really interesting, because the name of this place is Lundegard, and that didn't. I always asked him why, and he said, "Well, it's the Garden of Lund," and he was from Lund, Sweden. But when I went to Sweden, I really saw Lundegard, and it looked like this. It was the city park in Lund.
Yes, there is a. The name is on the gate out there. Is it Lundegard, did you say?
Well, Norman, my Swedish is good.
Or Landegard?
Lundgård.
Lundgård.
Yeah.
Lundgård. So that was the name of the estate here.
It'll translate to Garden of Lund.
I see. Now, where did he get his inspiration to do his wood carving?
From this Axel Peterson in Sweden, and called Dudderholten. And as a little boy, little boys have idols, and Daddy always said, I wanted to be a wood carver, and I wanted to make it, and then he'd laugh and look around and he'd say, by God, I guess I did.
This is a newspaper from Lund, Lund's Dagblad. This is Lund's daily newspaper, I suppose is what it means. And there is an article here about Anton Pearson being the USA ambassador of Döderhutan. Now, what does Döderhutan mean?
I think it was a province. Or the area
where he came from, anyway.
And, he was, I think it was just the man from...
whether it was a province or a town or a small
area. Township or something that Axel Peterson was his actual name.
Axel Peterson. He was known as the Döderhutan. We haven't decided yet exactly what that means. But I believe you said that your father had not really known him.
I don't think
I don't think
so.
he
I
did.
don't think he was a personal friend
No.
or anything like that. But they were contemporaries.
But when your father went back, he made trips back to Sweden. Right?
Only one.
Only one.
Mhm.
And then on that trip, he went to see the carvings of Anton Pearson, perhaps?
I'm sure.
Yeah, and Oscar's common, I believe.
Are these some of the wood carvings that were possessed by Alba?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
How do you know how Alba got hers?
so how did she get her?
Alba got hers because her mother's sister wanted to send things to her mother. And so she would buy these little wood carvings. And she would send them to her sister, who was Alba's mother. And that's how they got this
Is that
nice
very
collection.
interesting?
That's how they got this nice collection.
So it was a very priceless.
Oh, yeah.
collection.
Right, and at that time, you see, it wasn't. It was just, evidently, the
Oh.
sister lived close around here and just bought them. And
I think the carvings, the artists that do then was referred to as snooze money.
Seriously.
Yeah, you know, from diamond.
Yes. Well, that's true of a lot of art.
Oh, that's right.
When you first start, your art goes rather reasonably, and it only
Right.
gets valuable later on. Do you happen to know who has those wood carvings now? Are they in
The college.
The college possesses them. And in the Sandzén gallery, perhaps?
I don't know.
We don't know. We have some. We have a picture here. This is a picture of your father.
Yes, this is a picture of him when he taught at the Arts and Crafts Center, when he worked at Boeing in Wichita during the war.
Oh, well, that's another thing I wanted to ask about. First, though, did he work at Boeing before he made the lecture trips around the country?
No. When I was in the second grade, which would have been 1940, my daddy built a trailer, and he took my mother and I.
This is in the 40s.
Yes, 1940. And he took my mother and I out to California, and you didn't have big trailers then, especially homemade ones. And he lectured, he taught a couple of weeks in the Indian school in Santa Fe.
He taught a couple of weeks in the Indian school in Santa Fe.
And he lectured in schools, much as we have now the school lectures that came. And so
In high
schools.
schools or grade schools or in colleges? Any
High
college?
school, grade school, colleges.
I see. So was that a year or more?
Year and a half.
A year and a half that he did that. This was in the 40s.
And we went to the West Coast.
A trip to the West Coast. And then it was probably during the war then that he did the teaching at Boeing.
Right. When he came back, the war broke out, and so he was still young enough, and he felt that he needed to do something.
So specifically, what did he do at Boeing?
As a pattern maker,
A pattern maker.
and he lived in Wichita, and Mother and I came back to the house and lived here during the war.
Okay. So he didn't actually, Boeing didn't have any program there for art as a sideline in his teaching.
Well, they had what they called an arts and crafts center where people, their workers, would go
Oh.
and relax, and Daddy was one of the instructors.
Oh, he also did that, but then for the war effort, he was a pattern maker.
Right.
Pattern maker. So he worked at that for several years.
Mm-hmm.
Did you live in Wichita then?
A short time,
Short time.
and then we moved back home. What's the story about Daddy and the wood shavings?
Yeah, I had a visitor in here that knew Anton. He rode with Anton to work. And Anton would carve on the way to and from work. And every once in a while he'd give this man a wood carving, say that's for the cleaning bill. And this man said he had, several little carvings from it. And he said, I cherish dearly. And he said that was the cleaning bill.
Well,
Because he couldn't sit
He said
still.
his car was just full of wood shavings at the end of the week.
I would imagine there would be.
Oh yeah, he
such,
said you'd open the door and shavings would fly out.
Now, Anton is also remembered for his role in bringing Swedish culture to Lindsborg. Now, what specifically can you say about this activity?
Well, when he moved to to Lindsborg, he really fell in love with Lindsborg, and the people were very good and very kind, and down through the years he was always working to help Lindsborg be better. And he did such things as erect the pulpit out at Salensburg Church. The one that did that. Yeah, he did the fountain up in North Park, and when I was little I used to think that was really neat.
The water fountain.
And then in later years, one day I came home and I said, "What's that?" Because all over the table were all these little models and things. And he said, "That's what I want Lindsborg to look like someday." And I just laughed. You know, no kid wants their daddy to stand out. But those were the models of the first Swedish storefront. And he did the Swedish bakery. That and Lindsborg were the two first ones.
And then his building.
And then there was his building uptown.
Which building was that now?
Well, this is the village clothesline.
Well, he owned that building, or
we own it now.
I think he bought it primarily to decorate.
Did he have a studio in there?
No. We think he bought it just so he could add a Swedish brand.
So he never conducted any business himself in it?
No.
I see. Now, this, so he worked a lot with some of this native stone. What do they call this stone?
Limestone.
The what? Limestone.
And that came from the early homes around here. But the limestone itself comes from Phillips County.
So he played a large role in bringing the Swedish motif to Lindsborg streets.
And preserving other things, such as the blacksmith shop uptown. He decided it should be preserved, so Hilding says he came and got me at 5 o'clock one morning. This is Hilding Jadaberg, and he said, "Come on, Hilding, we're going to go plant flowers over there."
What do you think he would think of the dollar horse emphasis now?
Oh, I think that anything like this. I think he had great foresight, and I think that he'd say, "Shook, I knew that people would get together and work like that."
Yeah,
that
this
was
is
the
what
kind of person he was.
I think he'd be delighted with it.
I had a note here that he was interested in planting trees downtown, too. Remember any?
Oh, yes. The arborvitae trees that were first in Lindsborg, he decided that would be good advertisement for Lindsborg.
These were the evergreen.
Right, and they were in redwood boxes.
In redwood.
Right.
I remember those.
And so he had Buzz Harder and Hilding Jadaberg help him, and they did that, and Wall Hoffermill helped make the boxes.
Wall Hoffermill.
That
helped make the boxes.
They thought they'd look better than parking meters.
Oh, that was the slogan, wasn't it?
Now, you mentioned about his building the home where you lived here. How soon after that did he build the studio that he had?
Well, the studio was actually the garage.
The studio was actually
the garage, and it was not until after the war, about 1950, I imagine, that he really, I would say the studio was finished in the 1950, as it is now.
Well,
and then he's been adding on to it. But that's when it's changed from the garage to the studio. Otherwise, we had it in the house.
Okay. Now, we're going to take a trip through the studio, but before we do that, do you have anything else that we'd like to have for the record that we haven't covered so far in our talk?
Well, I think since we hear so much of Broadway RFD.
Oh, Broadway RFD.
Yeah, that we need to mention the fact that Max Muller's father and my father were very good friends.
Max Muller's father, what was his first name?
Carl Muller.
Carl Muller. And your father were very good friends.
Very good friends, and of course, Daddy had known Max since he was a little boy, and we had watched him go to New York, and as he came back, he had this brilliant idea. In fact, I can remember the night that he said, "I would like to do this." And lots of ideas, but he had good ideas. A lot of them were, and Daddy believed in him. And so Daddy contributed the first $100. And from that point, he went up and down Main Street. He told people, "You think this Broadway RFD is a good idea? Well, then you contribute $100 too, and we'll get it going." And that was how he backed it. He also helped back the art gallery when it was started.
The Sandzén.
Yes, he spent one whole summer typing letters and soliciting funds to get it started. So you see, he was really a very unselfish man.
Yes.
And he always had lots of foresight, and well, everything he touched, he wanted to change and make better.
Well, we certainly owe him a great debt for all that he did for Lindsborg, and especially for these marvelous carvings that we're going to see shortly. Is there anything else now that we want to remind ourselves of before we go into the studio?
Well, he was a funny man.
Oh, yes, you have a story.
You told me that.
Let us have this story.
Well, when you're little and way back in 1930s, Santa Claus was not publicized as much as he is now. And he would always come and knock on the door, and then he'd leave. And he'd yell, "Merry Christmas!"
Santa Claus.
Right. "Merry Christmas. I'm going over to the Elmberg." I happen to be the neighbors. But one year, I never saw Santa. He was always out in the trees. And one year, he asked me to let he said, "Your daddy's never home." And I said, "No, he's not." And so he said, wanted me to promise that my daddy would be home next year. Well, I didn't forget that. I said, "Daddy, you're never here." So we had neighbors, the Youngs, and they liked to imbibe. And so, yes, Roy Young was a very good friend of mine. He was an older person. He was very good to the neighborhood kids and played ball with us and everything. So Daddy told him his predicament. And it was Christmas Eve, and somebody knocked on our door, and I said, "There's Santa Claus." And so Daddy went to the door, and Santa Claus couldn't find a Santa Claus mask. So he had on Peter Rabbit mask. And my mother, he said to my mother, "Mama, it's Peter Rabbit." So that story has made its rounds. And to this day, people see me at Christmas time, and they start to snicker, and they say, "Have you somebody been to see you yet?" So that was it.
Yes.
And I was so stupid, I still didn't know.
Well, any other stories that you might recall?
He was nominated for the Hillingstead coin in 1985. So maybe that should be down there for people years to come.
Yes. He was nominated for the...
Well, they had this coin.
The coin.
Commemorative coin.
For Anton Pearson. And what year was that?
1985.
1985. You are in the, Norman, you are in the, and Rosemary, you are in the process of restoring this area now. And I remember in the early days, when I was in college here, seeing the yard, the flowers, the pond. You said something earlier about an alligator that...
Well, it was an alligator that lived at the college. I don't know how long he lived there.
They had in the biology department.
Yeah,
probably.
and the gator would summer in the pool here.
So the gator would summer in the pool.
Yeah, we're going to redo everything, but no more gators. Bass maybe, but no gators.
And well, how did he keep it in the pool?
Actually, it was a deeper pool than this one. There was another pool on the other end of the yard, and it was a very deep pool.
Oh,
and the alligator was about like
a
this.
small alligator.
Right.
But he would.
Right, he did get out. People would say, "We understand that you have an alligator," and so he'd take a little rope and he'd go down to the river and he'd get his alligator and lead it back home. And that was just a few months, and then the alligator went back up to the college and committed suicide by jumping out the fifth floor.
Really?
They claimed he smelled the muddy
And he's at the
river
old
and
mill
wanted to
now.
go back to it, and he just bailed out.
Escaped and jumped out the window and was killed.
I believe a girl's brother gave it to her as a joke.
Yeah.
That's how it got there originally.
Well, now we will pause and we'll take a tour through the studio to see some of the wood carvings, beginning with some of the earlier work that...
Okay, and the rocks that you see throughout the whole garden and all over and through here were handpicked by my father. And they come from Ottawa County, and a lot of them are iron, sandstone, and a lot of them are limestone that you see over here. I just can't imagine how one man could have gathered all of these rocks and brought them down here. But it was over a period of years. And so then, as we go inside, we'll have a look at these stained glass windows that came from the first, or one of, it was called a Swedish mission church in Lindsborg, and I'm not sure what the fate of that church was. Norman, my husband and I, have spent some time trying to renovate the studio. Daddy used to say to us, he'd say, what's going to happen to this place when I'm gone? And Norman assured him that it would go on. And so with that, Norman then has renovated the studio. He's worked very, very hard. I have him to thank for it. And if it wasn't for Norman, the studio would not be here as it is now, because I probably would have packed everything up and put it in boxes. Okay, Daddy first began carving in limestone, and the limestone was easy to get. Foundations in Lindsborg were made from limestone. And I guess he wanted to experiment. I don't know any other reason. He did not carve too long in limestone, however, because the dust got into the furniture, and he was a newly married man, and he minded Mother, and she didn't like it. So he switched. But his carvings are types, and during the Depression years, which would have been right after Mother and Daddy were married, old 81 highway went by here. And Daddy, I can remember hearing stories, and I also remember people that would come here and Daddy would say to them, would you pose for me if I give you a bowl of soup? And they did. And this is one of my favorite ones. I just absolutely cannot imagine how this happened. But this man had no feet at all. And he walked on this part of his leg. And they were wrapped in many, many layers of newspapers and gunny sacks. And he was walking, of course, across the United States or wherever he could go. So this is a typical type carving that Daddy made. And this was a typical type person that he made. I don't really know how long he carved in limestone, but it was not too long, because as they were married in 29, so as a small child, he was not carving in limestone at that time, he was carving in wood. So it must have only been a few short years that he did that.
Now you have some large animals. These are in wood, aren't they?
Yes.
What is interesting about those?
Okay. Many times, as Daddy would be out, he went out and looked for a lot of his own wood. Some of these pieces are what you call dimension wood that you get from the lumber yard. But as that became harder and harder to find for his larger pieces, he would go out and he would look. Now this one is cottonwood, and this shell of the turtle was something, he found this piece of wood down along the river somewhere, and it reminded him of a shell. Well, then he came home and refined it a little bit and added the head and the legs and so on. And the same way with this alligator that you have right down here. This alligator is one solid piece, except, and I can't really tell you, but the curve, this is one solid piece, and I can't tell you how much of this other has been added. But anyway, this reminded him of an alligator, and the same way with this crab that's over here on the floor.
That's a crab, huh?
Well, I guess so.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure how authentic it is, but it's supposed to be a crab.
Now, I think one other animal is interesting. Since we have a history of grasshoppers in this area, you do have a carving of a grasshopper somewhere, do you?
That's right, and it's in the other room. Okay, this is a grasshopper, is another example of how Daddy would go out and find the wood that reminded him of something. And this is one solid piece, and then these other parts are put on here. You see this little man here? There used to be a sign on here that said what the early pioneers had to put up with. And I'm sure to them, those grasshoppers really did seem that big when they were out fighting them. This is cottonwood. And he did a lot of carving in cottonwood, and this is just a piece of bark.
That reminds me of you used to see these postcards of these huge grasshoppers.
Right. Okay, these are examples of his early carvings, and here again they are types. This is not any particular thing. I would imagine this would have been carved in the 30s. This one would have been carved in the late 20s, and it's the old woman trying to getting her water.
And the first one is a burial. Is that a funeral?
Yes. And it's amazing how many people look around and go like this, you know, find out what's inside of it. Of course, there's nothing inside of it at all. But this one is an early one, and if you look at these very carefully, you'll notice that they don't have the freedom that, say, the Salvation Army next to it has. The lines are much more relaxed and they flow much easier. This old lady is also an early one, and you can tell that. You can see the hands are not detailed at all. Now these are the kind of carvings that we will not sell at all because, well, they have more meaning to me than some.
Are you making replicas of the carvings?
No. Daddy did. He had an old man and old woman that he did make replicas of. And we perhaps will do that again, but we don't these.
Now the Salvation Army, that was they used to come through Lindsborg, did they?
Oh yeah, and I can remember them dressed just like this, and on Saturday nights they would meet on the corner and sing, and you'd give them money. But as you notice, I don't know if you can see this head in here, but that's much more refined than, say, this head or this head. And then we have the Applejack, the old man that used to sell things on the corner, and that was not necessarily Lindsborg. Here again, that's a type thing. And Mother and I had gone to see Grandma and Grandpa, and when we came home, Daddy had used the baby's beads for apples. And my school kids always like to hear that story because that's something that's a little bit different and interesting. Here we have the typical men sitting on the street corner. And here again, these are all carved in the 30s, after Daddy was married and moved here.
Is that a policeman there? That's,
He's checking them out.
Checking them out.
Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Not vagrants, I guess.
And the next...
Okay, this is called An Evening at Home. And this was actually my mother's. She was a musician. And so Daddy carved that. And home, and it's the musicians, and Daddy gave that to Mother. She was a musician. And Mother really did like this one a lot. And one time he wanted to sell it, and he says, I'll make you another one. And she says, no way. She really liked that. This is the old-fashioned photographer. Here again, stressing types, no special thing.
Not especially Grundle.
No, it says the little photographer with big business.
I see.
And here are the farmers that he's trying to sell his cow. And the old man and woman going to market, and the junk man. And I always liked the junk man as a little girl. You know, it had tin cans on it. It looked like a toy, so that was all.
Did you mention the middle one there, the wagon and the horses and the... That's like a pioneer experience.
That's right. That would be the old man and woman going to market. And I'm not sure that it would be too pioneering. I would think during the 20s that they would have been doing that type of thing yet. Norman tells about how they used wagons when he was younger, so that would be the middle 20s.
Do you remember hearing anyone talk about junk men coming through Lindsborg, thinking of it as his wagon, or is that just to get a type?
I would say that it would be a type. I'm sure that a junk man probably did, but they would be a type. We've heard stories that, yes, in McPherson there was a junk man, and he would really did go around and gather junk that way. Daddy had a tremendous sense of humor, and I think it shows if you look at this one's face, on faces throughout as you're shooting them. They really almost...
They all have expressions.
Oh yes, they almost come alive.
Very interesting.
I'd like to show you one over here in the corner, and I can take it down and hold it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, this again shows how he went out and found a piece of wood that reminded him of something. And of course, an artist has a very creative mind, and so you'd be walking along and you'd say, hey, by golly, I know what I'm going to do with that. Well, anyway, here's the man. He's being swallowed by the whale, and down here it says, tell my wife I won't be home for supper. And then there, as you go throughout, if you ever visit the studio, you'll find his sense of humor is really evident in a lot of the different carvings. There's one of a little man and a tall woman, and it's called Waltzing Matilda. And
is that this one over here?
yeah.
Why don't you get a hold of that, or should I?
However,
just hold that out too. It's called Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing Matilda.
Is that an early one or a late?
No, this is a later one. And this is called. You see, this is flat on the back.
That's Waltzing Matilda.
That's right.
A tall lady and a short man.
That's right.
And that's humorous.
Okay, these are Norman's wood carvings, and he is keeping up the tradition and is the one that has the Pearson studio open. Norman also does types, and this is the old woodcutter, the old man. And here are the mountain men. He is pretty versatile. He will go by different times and different periods. But sometimes he'll carve one certain type of carving, and then he'll carve another type. But I really am fortunate to have Norman to hold up the tradition and with an interest in it, because without him the studio wouldn't be able to stay open.
Wonderful. Well, we do thank you so much for taking your time to take us on this wonderful tour of the studio, and also for all of the information you have given us about your father and his work. Thank you again.
Well, I thank you. I think the Lindsborg owes it to you in future years for all that you've done. I really do. I think this is really a tremendous thing that you're doing, and a tremendous thing that Nancy's doing to
Thank you.
come and
Thank you very much.
photograph too. So.